Good evening, City of Opa-locka Special Planning and Zoning Board meeting for September 13, hereby called to order. Can we have a roll call?
Board Member Barnes,
Present.
Board Member Johnson,
Present.
Board Member Mangum, Board Member Hibbert Smith,
Present.
Chairman Guerrero,
Present.
attendance confirmed.
Then we can stand for the invocation and pledge. Johnson, do you mind leading us?
The pledge of the prayer.
Oh, well,
Mr. Chair, the pledge of the prayer.
the invocation.
Oh, Heavenly Father, Lord, we come to you on one accord and asking, oh Lord, that we move this city forward with the grace of your mercy and understanding for the people. And the decisions that we'll make, Lord, it goes into the future. So Father, with honesty, with integrity, with good morals, we ask that our businesses meet or exceed expectation, and our staff has the wisdom to guide us through. All these things we ask in your son's name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Very well.
Can we have a motion for approval of the minutes from the May 10th meeting?
Mr. Chair, a motion to approve the minutes from May of 2022.
We have a second? Second.
Oh, it's Claudia Hibbert, I second that. That was a second? Okay.
Roll call.
Board Member Barnes,
Abstain.
Board Member Johnson,
Yes.
Board Member Hibbert Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Guerrero,
Yes.
minutes passed.
And now we'll open for public hearings for the items tonight.
Chair, board members, the first item on the agenda this evening is a resolution of the Planning and Zoning Board of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, recommending approval of the special exception site plan review request for the operation of a place of religious worship at 2560 Service Road and identified by folio 08212200000130 in the B2 zoning district, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
We have
Mr.
the presentation.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this particular application has been withdrawn by the applicant. They were under a time constraint as it relates to getting certain things approved. And unfortunately, due to the fact that the board had not met for a few months now, they were not able to get those things secured. So they withdrew their application.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
for the record, although I noticed and that it has been withdrawn, but this particular application was not in our May package. So we wasn't here June, July. In addition to that, I really have reservation when I see a registered agent application dated September 10th of 1996. Now, we're in the 21st century. So to staff, y'all get it together, because if I recall correctly, it's an annual renewal. So before you bring any additional factors or applications in front of the board, I think it behooves us to make sure they have current, even if you got to go to Sunbiz. And I want that on the record. And to the clerk, I want it verbatim. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, board member, for the clarification.
So can we get the second item read into the record?
Mr. Chair, board members, the next item on the agenda is a resolution of the Planning and Zoning Board of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, recommending approval of the final site plan request for the construction and operation of a convenience store, 2 retail spaces, and a service station with a hand car wash at 14585 Northwest 22nd Avenue and identified by folio 08212200500690 in the B2 zoning district, providing for an effective date.
Do we have
Mr.
the
Chair.
applicant presentation?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board, this is an application for the site plan and the development agreement for a gas station and convenience store operation. It's pretty much at the corner of 22nd Avenue between Service Road and Rutland. This is actually replacing a older gas station operation that was there from previous years that had not been operating for quite some time. And they're seeking to build a new facility at that particular location. I'll have Mr. Lee come up and make a presentation. I'm not sure if the applicant is here. If they are, they can also address your concerns as it relates to this particular application. So if you would like, you could either have Mr. Lee make his presentation as far as staff's recommendation, and then, or have the applicant come up and make their
Hear from
presentation.
the applicant first, I think, and we can ask that.
Chairman,
Yes,
may I? If everyone don't mind, please make sure you speak into the mic clearly. Thank you.
Yes, please come forward.
Okay, any question? This application was approved previously.
If you could
Yeah.
introduce yourself.
Yeah, okay, my name is Jorge Fialo. I'm the project manager for this project. As was saying, this application was previously approved with only one contingency or one item pending, which is that traffic impact study that you guys request. And we provide the traffic impact study. And based on the result of that study, we modify the proposed site plan to allow better vehicle maneuvering and, you know, the operation of the site. And that's what we resubmit the modification of the site plan based on the recommendation for the traffic impact study that was also submitted as well.
okay, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think my question will go more to staff
Okay,
than to the applicant, and the applicant can feel free to weigh in after I ask staff.
Thank you.
any questions for the applicant? Okay, we'll hear from Mr. Lee.
Mr. Lee.
Gerald Lee, Planning and Community Development Department. This, as the applicant has said, this application was before you before, and it was basically approved with the condition that they needed to provide a traffic study. That traffic study changed the orientation of the site. See if you can get to that part. Changed the orientation of the site and reduced access from Service Road. And so the access is only on Rutland and on 22nd Avenue. Keep going. Back up. Yeah, that's the site. That's 22nd Avenue and Service Road. As Mr. Gay has already indicated, it was a gas station many years ago and subsequently has been the place of various businesses, including a car wash that has been longstanding. The present use is, it is vacant. And so this new use will be not only a positive opportunity for the city, but also two retail shops will be located within this retail convenience store and gas station. Next. It's another photo of the site. Next. That's the rear. Next. It's just a different angle. Shows the alleyway and the separation of this business wall from the residential properties to the east, but also includes a clear vision of the alleyway that helps to buffer from the site. Next. This just shows the zoning of the area of the properties that are surrounding the site, and it is a commercial B2 zoning district. Next. Staff has reviewed this application, and based on what the standards of the zoning code are, this property, the staff agrees that this site plan should be approved. And that's our recommendation. Questions?
Just to refresh my memory, what was the change that needed to occur in the site plan because of the traffic study?
The original site plan had opportunities to come in from the north side on Service Road and from Rutland and 22nd Avenue. It also moved the building more towards the south and included the parking, which is why it's blocked off on the Service Road side, and included the extra parking near the Rutland side. So the orientation of the property changed and the way you circulate within the property changed based on the traffic study that you all required.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, you had a-
Yes. To staff. In good faith, do we have documents where we have reached out to the neighbors in that area? That's number one. Because Mr. Thomas used to have a car wash there. And then Jackie, prior to Mr. Thomas and them she had a garden shop there with plants and all, but she did my yard. I'm more concerned, that's two, the entry, because I brought about the traffic study, but the entry with that one way on Service Road and the signage that we currently have there, what would be the impact? But secondly, impact, because if you come in 22nd Avenue, there are two lanes, right? And it's one going on State Road 9, if this is the same location.
Yes.
Now I'm on medication, you know.
It's
You know.
okay. It's okay.
My last is drainage. That area is a drain, holds a lot of water. So what have we done to address that? Do they have drainage? Because even when Mr. Thomas used to have a car wash there, when it rained, it settles. So if you can answer, get those four out of the way for me, I'll be good.
Okay. The first one was about
Good
the
faith to resident.
entrance and exit of the property. No entrance will be allowed from the Service Road side.
Okay,
You will access this property from Rutland and from 22nd Avenue only.
okay,
Okay. The way that's configured is good because it reduces access and then makes Service Road a residential street only, not anything to do with this retail use. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
now you know I'm a former postal employee,
Yes, ma'am.
so that means the address. If it's facing one way, have you got approved? Because I can make a phone call to find out, have you got approved from the United States Postal Service?
Well, I think after the site plan is approved, then we'll make sure that USPS gets notice of when the permits are submitted to make sure the address.
Because you
is
know it's not an
correct.
automatic.
No, ma'am, we know.
All right, so I want that as a footnote.
Yes, ma'am.
And although applicant said it's already been approved, in my opinion, it has not until everything is addressed. So I wouldn't know, you know, you switch to face the back to the front, which is fine.
Yes,
That address change, I want it to be documented. And so we all can be on the same page with that. Not you getting mail for the old address and, you know, because we got a couple of places here I don't want to put on record. that in my poster of 35 years, it's not gonna fly. So you can continue. Thank you.
Okay,
If I may add, the city is always responsible for assigning the addresses and reporting that information to the postal service. So that action will take place as a part of this application.
Okay, and with that, Mr. Gay, I think that should be one of your recommendations in your package. So if you can add a footnotage to that.
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
most people don't know that.
Yes, ma'am.
You can continue.
Thank you.
okay.
Any other questions?
Drainage,
As it relates to,
I'm
drainage,
good.
drainage is a part of the site plan beginnings, but it's really handled when they deal with WASA and when they deal with building permits. But I'm sure they're going to address whatever's required because there is code requirements that every property has to maintain the water that falls on it, and that's through drainage. So they're going to have to address it. The site as it is right now is not going to be there. They're going to demo that entire site and build new to be what they are presenting in their site plan. So they're going to have to provide the drainage that is necessary based on that site plan.
Okay, so to the applicant, because I like to be crystal clear. The drainage, that's your baby. So although it may get approved, I know how to go around and I ain't gonna go through the back door to get what is right. So you know that's your baby, you need to take care of it. I still want it mentioned because through the application, I have not found where any of this is addressed. And although we should know, the law says you should know, we want you to know. As we move forward in the city, we cannot make the assumption that anyone knows anything unless it's documented. Because I may not be here, you guys may not be here, but as long as it's documented, it'll stand up in the court of law. Thank you. And I'm really supportive of any businesses coming, but my little 5th grade education, I want to make sure it's documented. Thank you. Thank you, staff.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board member has raised some excellent points that will be reflected within the development agreement associated with this application. And the development agreement will be the controlling document to make sure that all of these things are accomplished.
I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Can we get a motion for, yeah,
Make a motion for approval of this particular legislation.
second it. Roll call?
Moved by Board Member Johnson, second by Board Member Barnes. Okay, all right.
Roll call?
Board Member Barnes,
Yes.
Board Member Johnson,
Yes.
Board Member Hibbert Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Guerrero,
Yes.
item passed.
Item C?
Item C is a resolution of the Planning and Zoning Board of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, recommending approval of the development agreement request for the construction and operation of a convenience store, 2 retail spaces, and a service station with a hand car wash at 14585 Northwest 22nd Avenue and identified by folio 08-2122-005-0690 in the B2 zoning district, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Gay.
this is the companion item serving as the development agreement for the convenience store and retail space with the gas station. As Board Member Johnson has brought forth, there are certain items that needed to be brought into the record to be added to the development agreement to make sure those particular points are addressed and are properly monitored as a part of the development agreement. Mr. Lee, he can provide you with a quick presentation, seeing that it is the same particular application. There may be some specifics as it relates to the development agreement that needs to be spoken about at this time, and he will address those.
Thank you. Mr. Lee.
Gerald Lee, Planning and Community Development Department. It's the same project. And so the conditions that were espoused by Member Johnson were that she wanted to have proof that there were notices sent to the area residents to garner their support for the project, that there would be adequate drainage provided based on Florida Building Code, and that we would require that a new address is going to be assigned at the appropriate time for the new building orientation. If those conditions or additional ones that you have in mind need to be considered, please let us know.
Yes, Ms. Jones?
Before,
Yes, ma'am.
I think as we go forward, because of the environment that we're living in now, it is crucial that we don't burden our police department with extra. That, do you have in mind public safety strategies? Because although we want you and we welcome you here to the great city of Opa-locka, I think it's crucial that you provide that. Armed, not nobody just walking around with no, what this stick is. I should know because I was a police. Well, you know what I mean. They need to be secured. You need to have cameras, and you know all about the handicap, ADA and all of that. All of that need to be, make sure that is added. And I think since the next phase is development agreement, you got the uppercut to do the right thing in good faith. Thank you very much, staff. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Okay, anything else to add? Barnes? Okay, can we get a motion for the development agreement, item C?
Move to approve item C.
Roll call?
Board Member Barnes,
Yes.
Board Member Johnson,
Yes.
Board Member Hibbert Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Guerrero,
Yes.
item passed.
We get item D.
A resolution of the Planning and Zoning Board of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, recommending site plan review approval for the construction and operation of an industrial and commercial mixed-use retail and warehouse distribution facility on the property located at 12691 Northwest 42nd Avenue and 12705 Northwest 42nd Avenue, Opa-locka, Florida, 33054. Identified by folios 082129 000 0050 and 082129 000 0064 in the B3 zoning district, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Mr. Gay,
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board, this particular location is for the site on 42nd Avenue. This is the site of the former flea market operation. This is a very significant project that is being brought forth. We do have representation from the law offices of Holland and Knight, who are representing the applicant for this particular item. And if you would like, we can have them come and make a presentation. I do see that there may be members of the audience that might want to speak in relationship to this particular project as well. So if you would like to recognize members of the audience first and make a presentation, or have the applicants make their presentation first, that's of your will
can I hear from
to
the
make that
public
decision.
first?
Mr. Chair, I would like to recommend that we have a community activist already here, that his question may be answered during the presentation, but He spent a lot of time working. He done went home and cleaned up and he's back to ask a lot of questions. So I would like to recommend to the
Okay.
board.
I accept.
Good evening, Mr. Chair
evening.
and board members. Brian Dennis, address 2140 York Street. The thing with this, this was never brought to the community. When projects like this come to Opa-locka, it needs to come to the community. Opa-locka has an ordinance called 95-6. It was voted in by the residents. It is never adhered to, meaning when projects like this come into the city, the residents should be at stake. They should have a say-so in it. And not only does that ordinance what that ordinance actually talks about is the hiring of residents on these projects. Every time projects come into the city, the residents are never hired. Now we're talking about a construction project. And eventually with this construction project, they're going to eventually bring in other companies and they're going to rent out bays. So the only thing that the companies will have to do is then go upstairs to business licensing to pay for whatever they need to do and get their licenses and moved on. So I understand what you all going to do, but I'm saying on this particular project, not voting against it, what I'm saying is let's get some equity in it because there's no equity in it for the residents at all. The same way it wasn't equity in it for Amazon, the same way it wasn't equity with Murphy's gas station, the same thing with 7-Eleven. I can almost guarantee you that if I went in Murphy's and 7-Eleven and start questioning those employees that work there and ask them to show their ID, I would almost guarantee you that the majority of them are not residents of the city of Opa-locka. So now we're talking about a construction program. With this construction that is going to proceed on this company, it's not against the company, but what I'm saying is let's negotiate it fair. Let's get some equity in it for the residents. And what I mean by that is we need some work. We need some employment. We have 2 low-income areas, Back Blues, 22nd Avenue apartment where the majority of the crime go into it. Construction means that that's an easy job. All they have to do is qualify to have an OSHA 10. That's no problem. My organization will help them pay for it, to help them qualify for it. I do it every day. So now where is the equity for the residents of these 4.4 square miles? When you bypass the residents and don't give the residents an opportunity to have a voice, but you meet with community development and then bring it to the board and the commission votes on it, there's no equity at stake in it for the residents. The same people that members are now running out there saying, hey, could you vote for me? Now, let me tell you why I'm saying this, because I'm the boot camp coordinator. I have 6 cadets in my current platoon that are from the city of Opa-locka. 6. 6. 6 out of a platoon with 22. The majority of my residents from the city of Opa-locka are 50-50, meaning that half has high school diplomas, the other half don't. So before you vote on this project, I think the residents need to have a say in this. I think those people that have this project need to come to the table and let's put it in writing. And when they don't adhere to what's in the contract with the writing, then the city needs to come forward to put forth the fine to make that company then pay the city for what they're not doing. It's all in the city of Miami and the CRA. How do I know that? Because I'm the boot camp coordinator for Transition Incorporated. So any construction project that goes on in the city of Miami through the community development agency, redevelopment agency, if they do not adhere to what's in the contract, they get to fine that company. They get to fine that company. There's a reason why I'm sitting here. There's a reason why I came to this meeting. No different. I should have jumped up on the project where the old car wash used to be at, right there on 22nd Avenue, because there's only 2 lanes as Commissioner Johnson stated out. So now you're going to have an overflow of traffic that is only turned into 2 lanes when you come across 135th Street, and now you're going to have a problem getting into it. So now you're going to have construction right there on that corner with people trying to go across 22nd Avenue, across State Road 9, on top of the Tri-Rail, the Amtrak, and everything else running through that through the day. Now, how can I tell you that? As a member of the charter board. Know the city very well. Only thing I'm saying is table it. Let's get a contract. Let's include the residents in it, and let's move forward with it. Because the smoke and mirrors is over with now. That game is over with.
Thank you. Yeah.
1 second before you come up. You want to comment back to the concerned citizen? Yeah, just want to, I mean, you spoke and I wanted to at least pay the respect to respond back to what you said, because I think you raised a lot of important points. And these are points that, having served on this board for, well, like 7, 8 years now, at this point, are things that I've raised repeatedly. And so I'll explain to you the answer that was explained to me. It may not suffice in your eyes, but at least you'll have a better understanding of what we have the ability to do and what we don't have the ability to do. And so the developers agreement that the staff puts forth is really the contract that we're able to make these sort of stipulations. And within that development agreement, there's certain language that we are allowed to put and certain language we are not allowed to put. And some of those languages that we are not allowed to put are things that mandate the race or the age or the location of the people who do the construction projects. And the reason why we're not allowed to do that is because the city could be sued for discrimination. And if that were to happen, sort of undermines the entire purpose of doing the development. What we are allowed to do is strongly suggest that Mr. Workforce comes from the community, which I have repeatedly argued with Mr. Gay and Mr. Lee with over and over again, to where the moment it comes up, they see it in my face and they know here he goes again. So I can assure you, sir, that on behalf of the actual board that's up here, we do the best that we can within the laws that are provided for us in the state of Florida to incentivize those doing development to hire locally, to increase the vegetation, because we live in a very hot city with not a lot of trees and palms don't count. But there's only so much that we have the reach to do because of legal reasons. So when you say that we would like to speak on behalf of the community and the community should be involved, these are the moments where concerned citizens like you step up, and we appreciate you coming to step forward to make sure everyone hears your voice, because you're speaking on behalf of a lot of individuals who are not able to be here, considering these meetings are at nighttime. Not everybody have the privilege to take time off and come walk in here and represent their other concerned citizens. But I can tell you that on behalf of this board, we will do the best that we can to make sure that citizens are not taking advantage of the great city of Opa-locka and actually care about the people that live here.
To the mic then. Right.
To the mic, sir, please.
Quick point, and I'm saying this to the board to use your city attorney. It is not a resolution. It is an ordinance. It is an ordinance of the city of Opa-locka that was voted on back in 1995 by the residents. So the law is there. It's not you forcing their hand. The law is there. Let's use the law and make that law work. Not using the law and not understanding the ordinance is it's the problem. And that's the go around. But I'm telling you, you could go get former Mayor John Riley. Ask John Riley. Ask Patricia Ellis, the former city attorney. They trained me. I sat on the charter board. Mayor Taylor gave me an award for sitting on the charter board. It is an ordinance. That ordinance is law. It's not a resolution. It is law that the residents of the city of Opa-locka, according to 95-6, has priority. Now, staff might not be following it, but that as of this date, September the 13th, 2022, is they going to follow it now? I promise you that. Table it, get the ordinance, go to the city attorney, and watch you see it sitting there. For 7 years, you've been neglected with it. And they've heard me coming to the commission meeting and mention it on several occasions. So I'm telling you, it's not a resolution. It is an ordinance that was voted on by the residents of the city of Opa-locka. It is law.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm very familiar with the ordinance of 95.6. And there's a way that we can integrate those concerns into the development agreement. However, if you look at the city of Miami Garden, and I'm on a lot of city of Miami Garden subcommittees. And yes, they use Career Source and several others, and the businesses give to the Educational Compact. But I think here in the city of Opa-locka, it may be a lack of, I don't want to say experience, the knowledge. And so where the knowledge is not where a lot of research is done, because you have a public hearing which allows the citizens to get involved, but I don't think as a city, we do a very good job encouraging, and I go to a lot of the meetings, citizens to really get involved. But I would like to, for the organization, because after that last meeting that we had and with the flea market, they did step up to the plate. They did honor some things that we wanted, and I commend them for that. But now as we look at economic impact, we have to make sure, and this is not the development plan. So we got an opportunity, but as you may have to come from down there to come to the podium to make sure that the commission knows the importance of the ratio of unemployment in certain pockets of the city. So we may have to take a step further, but to the staff, you guys may need to look at your, because the audience have more weight than the resolution. So therefore, you may have to look at that when you are creating the development agreement and merge as much as possible. But I do think there is a concern. Now we have the public hearing, but I think it's much better because before, I mean, you get up there 2 minutes, your time is up. Well, see, I know how to come back and get me some more time, but everyone doesn't know that. So I think in order not to behold it, when you get to the development plan staff, these things that are being voiced by the citizen and board members, they need to be incorporated as much as possible. So therefore, the attorney need to be consulted and just make sure that is, how can we both do this in good faith? But I think that's critical, especially with the condition of, and you got the skill set, you got businesses, you got Job Corps, you got a lot of places that can help out. And even a couple of months ago, you had a vendor, a provider came in and he was doing some sort of project that he would train people. So it's not that we don't have the resources, we just need to tap the resource and make sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I know in the time that I've been on the board, we used to on big projects incorporate to do job fairs, and I think it comes down to probably enforcement when it actually is, the construction is going on, that's where the disconnect is, but we would include that in the development agreement as a stipulation always.
To include it and not to ensure that it happens.
That's why I say.
I mean, I remember Sailboat when they was building Sailboat and they was gonna hire so many citizens from Opa-locka. And with my experience in the post office, if you go past 151st Street and look at somebody's driving license, unless you know the address, it's gonna say Opa-locka, but it's really not Opa-locka. So I had the whole state of Florida, the whole city of Miami, I had to know that. So a lot when we do the turkey drive, I'm there just to verify that that's actually an address within the city limits. So yes, they may do one way, and you can't hold a person to their ethnicity for hiring, but you can also make sure that they have, and we got to do this homework prior to. And that's where I don't think we, the city, has done a very good job. You can't wait until the project come in front of you and then want to continue, because this has been going on since May. And I remember the young lady coming in. I think she understood where I was coming from and she was willing to go back and change it. But now you may have to add another layer to it, just to make sure that we are doing those things. And it's documented, not just to say we're gonna put flyers out. We got to do that homework. We, the city, I'm not talking about the committee, we have to do this homework prior to. And I think that's very crucial. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Any other comments? Anybody else from the public wishing to speak?
Good evening, Chair, Board, members of staff. My name is Alex Van Meckel. I live at 806 Jan Avenue. I'm a resident and owner of a historic home here. I'm very proud to be here, going on 1 year. So I'm almost at my 1 year here in Opa-locka. Perhaps this is a teachable moment. You guys come to you're on the dais for a great purpose of providing your expertise on the subject of planning and zoning. I'm lending my talents to the Historic and Environmental Board of the city, so I have great respect for what you do. As it relates to this agenda item of the former Opa-locka flea market site, I myself, in being taught in what a sustainable and conducive urban planning environment looks like from my formative years, I was quite frankly, especially as a newcomer, disappointed to hear what was coming to this historic property. I don't just mean historic in the sense of the stateliness of having the Opa-locka Hialeah flea market that all were able to enjoy for many decades, but I speak to the opportunity, and perhaps I'm a bit of a dreamer. I like to think very altruistically of what could be. So I've spoken on this to commission a couple months back. In short, I express my discontent with the fact that one of our main thoroughways and being welcome into the great city of Opa-locka is going to be flanked by 2 warehouse projects, one on the other side of it, and of course, this one being proposed tonight. So when I speak on expertise and you guys being all the wiser, I don't speak to things, I'm not asking for changes to things that are very much baked into what's already in progress. And with respect to the owners of the property, what I singularly want to focus on is this mention. I'm a big avid newsie. I work in public relations, so I read in great detail about what was proposed for the site through the Miami Herald. And there was a specific line item in there that talked about paying tribute to our community and the unique Moorish aesthetic of our city. And whereas I understand that we don't have a specific guidebook, defined one at that requires or incentivizes businesses to kind of pay tribute to what that aesthetic looks like, I found it to be a bit laughable that the developer had deemed this project with said proposed schematic as traditional Moorish architecture, where we sit right behind the most prime example of Moorish architecture being our historic City Hall. By no means am I asking for a project like this to look like City Hall. I just would like it, if we're going to have to drive by this thing on a daily basis, I would like to see some concessions from said developer to at least try to meet us halfway to make this look like Opa-locka and not Doral or any of the other properties that are part of their portfolio. At quick glance, it looks like everything else. So it's a bit insulting coming from a truly pure Moorish historic perspective, and in trying to reinvigorate and inspire people to think differently about Opa-locka. I would love that we have the new development. And again, if we're living with the reality of what's to come, I'm okay with that. I just would like it to look a little bit nicer. So I appreciate your time. And again, thank you for all that you do. That is all that I have to say. And I just want to give a shout out to the resident that spoke prior. That's a very important topic, and what I bring to the table pales in comparison to a very important conversation like that. I'm just expressing my particular request and hope for what this could look like. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Comments? Anybody else on the phone you wanted to? Okay. All right. Public hearing closed then. Can we have the applicant presentation?
Good evening. Robert Holland, along with co-counsel Joe Goldstein and Miss Alessandria Roman. I was actually scheduled to go after Joe Goldstein, but I'm going to go first because I think some of the things that were brought up, I think you should know we've listened. And we're making our attempts to try to address those things. And to Mr. Brian Dennis, who I have known for ages, I pledge my commitment between now and the next meeting to work with him. And any program that you know here that we can hire people from, we can give you that commitment. We have jobs for people. So with that in mind, you probably ask, why here? Why Opa-locka? Community benefits, what do we get out of it? And I'm glad you asked that. So often in our communities, economic trends outside of the neighborhoods sometimes get stuck in the past. We kind of typically follow trends way after those trends have kind of lost their economic impact for us. And when I say us, African-American communities predominantly. And so oftentimes the businesses that we chase are not the ones that are on horizon that will bring us something to this community. And most of you all will probably know that prior to COVID, industrial, cargo, and logistics movement was growing at a very rapid pace in South Florida. After COVID, it blossomed. It just went crazy. In fact, retail is on a decline now. So everybody's pushing for retail. There's no real money in retail now. People are ordering everything offline. It's logistics movements now. In fact, most of your retail centers now are becoming entertainment destinations. They have to have major restaurants. You go to Aventura Mall now, there's more restaurants in Aventura Mall than you ever saw before. They're trying to find reasons to drive you there in hopes that you will buy something. I represent Mall of the Americas that's being built out west of I-75. If it gets off the ground now. Prior to COVID, it was an anticipated $4 billion mall, indoor ski slopes and all that stuff. It's in jeopardy now with the retail market post-COVID, supply chain issues and all those things. And so light industrial has been making crazy money and employing people at a click that you wouldn't understand. When you look at Doral was farmland. It was built on light industrial. You look at Miramar and how Miramar has grown, light industrial. Miami Gardens is lucky with the stadium, but look on the periphery, County Line Road, all light industrial coming in now. Because now you get to be able to employ people 20, 25 bucks an hour in your community. Your expendable income goes up into your community. And when your expendable income goes up in your community, you have a greater potential now for different retail. So if I want to, because sometimes when I come, I know things that are happening that sometimes may not be happening right in your city, but I know the things that are about to happen in your city if you embrace them. Can you put the video on for me? This particular project that I'm gonna show you a video, and I represent this client as well at Miami International Airport. An unsolicited proposal to the county, of which the county commission almost unanimously has endorsed, no solicitation. We're negotiating and hoping we'll have it before the board either October or November for approval. If you can put that video on, and this will show you why it impacts Opa-locka. Vic, V-I-C-C. Okay, and turn the volume up some.
What if there were a cargo solution that could transform Miami International Airport and prepare it for change now and for the future? What if there were an infrastructure platform so innovative, integrated, sustainable, and resilient that it changes the way cargo is handled in the Americas? What if there were a cargo project that generates considerable revenue without using airport funds, where the developer puts up all the money, upfront, and at the same time delivers approximately 21,560 total jobs, including construction, primary, and induced jobs for Miami-Dade, drives economic recovery for the airport and the county, and secures cargo dominance in this hemisphere. Let's meet Vic, a vertically integrated cargo community that will change Miami's cargo operations forever. Vic will be the first of its kind aviation facility in this hemisphere, the result of more than 2 years of collaborative effort by local, national, and international aviation specialists. Vic sets new standards for air cargo processing. This patented solution and comprehensive delivery system represents the future of cargo and a more efficient and faster global supply chain. Vic serves as a platform to modernize Miami International Airport and grow it through an ultimate cargo master plan that will transform and multiply its cargo capacity 6 times, all without the cost of 1 square foot of additional land. Vic expands cargo operations as we know it. This 5-level sophisticated platform is the most efficient, highly automated airline shipper and consumer-friendly cargo community in the world, and it future-proofs Miami International Airport as a vital link to the global supply chain, even during an event such as the current pandemic. An automated ETV ULD structure connects to Vic and has the ability to store and deliver cargo pallets and containers, serving 25 Group 6 aircraft at a time, outperforming all other airports. Vic's automation is the bedrock of a new generation of jobs and careers in logistics, distribution, and supply chain management. What are the benefits to Miami-Dade? Higher paying and better jobs, a safer work environment, maximized security, increased reliable throughput, all with reduced user costs. Vic is Miami-Dade's new cargo community, supporting up to approximately 7,900 workers a day with commercial, retail, hospitality, healthcare, daycare, educational, and many other services. Vic is a new job and business creation engine, and it performs 21,560 total jobs, $14.1 billion in worker salaries, $33.9 billion in added economic benefits, $1.5 billion in new taxes for Miami-Dade, and new opportunities for locally based and certified businesses. Vic is an environmental powerhouse. Unlike traditional cargo facilities, Vic includes a carbon-neutral, sustainable architecture, and its design promotes environmentally responsive transportation systems. It galvanizes Miami-Dade's new environmental, social, and economic agenda. It complements Miami's new technology initiative straight away. And it all starts at Miami International Airport. It's time to reconsider the crucial role cargo plays in Miami-Dade's future. It's time to adopt the most innovative and transformative cargo infrastructure available in the world, and to elevate Miami International Airport as the preeminent air transport gateway on the global trade map. The time to create change is now. Let's welcome Vic.
So why is Vic important to Opa-locka? As you heard them mention, this will be the first facility of this kind in the Northern Hemisphere, which means right now Miami International Airport is at capacity on cargo. This facility will extend the airport's cargo facilities 20 years out. You'll be able to do more throughput through this airport than anywhere else, LA, New York, anywhere. You'll be able to do that throughput here in Miami. But when it comes in, it has to go out. They're like arteries in your body. You can't have clogs in them. It has to go out. And so Opa-locka is primarily situated directly down the street to be able to enhance that logistics movement, where you now have state-of-the-art facilities in your community that people can be hired here and at the airport. Because the airport is going to have a host of jobs, but you'll be able to have those jobs here. And we prefer to get people from here there because you're going to show up to work quicker. It's less traffic, you're on time more. And it doesn't require a college degree for these jobs. These are entry-level positions that people can go in and they're making $20, $25 an hour. And the beauty of the cargo industrial world, and I'm not talking about manufacturing cargo, this is clean industrial logistics. your JBL speakers. In fact, one of the clients that we have coming in, we kind of talk about is California Closets. They'll have like a retail showroom in the front, but they'll have not the manufacturing, but the shipping and all in the back. You may have furniture stores. When Joe gets up here, Joe Goldstein, he'll talk about the depth of some of the bays and how they're oriented towards smaller businesses on the front. But when you look at this here, you're talking about jobs that will create 50 to 75% more wages than retail jobs. And I know we push a lot for retail jobs, but that's not where the money is. It doesn't require advanced studies, as I mentioned. It creates more expendable income. Approximately 80% of the taxes that are paid on industrial sites goes back into your coffers to do what you want with it. Industrial communities don't use your trash services, your police services, all that stuff is they're self-contained communities. So that means the money that you normally would put in or you would gain from a retail spot, you're providing police and everything else that goes there. Residential, you have to add, for every 80 units is probably another officer you have to hire. This here is all donated. It's just industrial donates back to your coffers. And so if you want to get your books right and you want to look at building this city up, industrial on that west side is the way you want to do it. Amazon didn't pick this spot because it didn't make sense. It was all of it. It was the trains. It was the airport. It's the access to the highways. It's logistic movement. You're primely situated. South Beach can't compete with you. Aventura can't compete with you. City of Miami can't compete with you. You have to take advantage of the assets that you have. But if you take your assets and you decide, well, we want to do retail, and now I have to compete with the malls, I have to compete with Aventura, City of Miami, North Miami, all the Miami Gardens. You're throwing yourself in a cesspool of competition when you can create a lane that you don't have competition in and make all the money. And to me, if we're talking about turning Opa-locka around, that's what we have to do. I recall years ago, we were talking about a biotech facility. And I'm saying to myself, excuse my vernacular, but who in the hell is going to work at the biotech facility? What jobs are we going to have at the biotech facility? And so here's something where we actually get to employ our people in this community and not at some meager minimum wage. And they're getting benefits. Most of the retail, you're getting a check, but you're not getting any benefits. These jobs will pay benefits on top of your check. So now you have dental care, health care, all that stuff is important, raising a family. And so that's why I think it's important you give some serious consideration to this. This here project will anticipate 1,000 construction jobs, 765 permanent jobs, in excess of $90 million in new investment, and about $6 million in permit fees. In addition to that, right now the land is assessed based on what they would pay right now is about $380,000 a year in taxes back to government. When this is built out, it'll be between 1.1 and $1.5 million in taxes coming back to you. You don't have to pay for their roads inside, and your development agreement is very tight. It requires them to maintain the facilities in a very stellar fashion. It's not like the old industrial of the past, 40, 50, 60-year-old industrial, that I know when you pass by there, it's disappointing. It's like they need to tear it down. This is stuff that gets maintained over a lifetime because the tenants they bring in require it. The security systems are required. All those things are in place to make sure you don't have a problem with this particular facility. And so that's why the industrial piece is important. But I want to speak to the stuff that was most important that Councilman Barnes mentioned, as well as Dennis, Brian Dennis, my friend. So as it relates to how we plan on hiring Opa-locka residents, in addition to the development agreement, we want to do something beyond that, because to me, the development agreement is your floor. And I keep saying, I hope that we can get, obviously, as you guys said, some additional things in development agreement, but also some other things that the city can do as well. And I think you can get businesses, particularly the industrial community, to help you with this. Your website should be able to have every developer that's coming here and the jobs that they have. And it's a simple place for people to go on and see who's bringing jobs to this community and where do we apply. So as part of your development agreement, we're required to host job fairs in the city of Opa-locka to encourage the application and hiring. I spoke to Mr. Rick Beasley of Career Source about a more robust program, because right now they roll out something. We wanted something a little more robust to make sure that we can get people out. So what we're looking at doing is, in addition to Mr. Rick Beasley, We're interfacing with Florida Memorial University because they have a trades program there. Mr. Dennis said he has a program. I'd like to interface with that program. The Miami-Dade Public Schools has a program. Gentleman by the name of, it's a contractor something else, does roofers and all the other stuff. They have a program. We're trying to interface with all those programs. So what we'll do is we're going to take with the general contractor, list out all those scopes that we need, first of all, subcontractors for. And we're going to use the county's program because Opa-locka doesn't have a program and it's a pretty expensive program to pull off. The county has a small business certified program. So we'll look at trying to get some of those contractors who have addresses up on this side of town to try to get them engaged in this project as subcontractors, because surely they would understand the need to have to reach out to hire people out of the community. In addition to that, any permanent jobs we have, we will list those things out so that you know what those jobs are. And when we do the job fair, we'll have a list of those things so people will know what they can come in to apply for. But this is what they call flex space. So it'll be retail space, some of it on the front, showroom, office space in addition. So it's a combination space that's kind of built for whatever the tenant is that they desire. But those tenants, we are requiring as well, and the city's requiring, that they have to do job fairs. And we're asking them to do the job fairs the same way we're talking about doing those job fairs, where that information is constantly out in the city. We're looking at maybe even hiring a PR firm, a minority PR firm that's in the area, who knows the barbershops, the beauty salons, the grocery stores, those things. But when people see those flyers, because they've been, I guess, written in a way that people understand, oh, that really is about an opportunity here in this community. You know, language can be very key as how something is drafted up. If you just draft up something that says a job fair, people tend to, it doesn't apply to me. But if you dress it up and people really feel like, oh, you're talking my language, so it is a job fair for this community, we should be able to get a more robust turnout for people wanting to come out. We're hoping to be able to geo-fence some of this stuff, or what they call a geo-target, to make sure it kind of stays within the area. But for the volume of jobs, I have to be very honest with you, for the volume of jobs we're talking about producing, you don't have enough residents to fill the volume of jobs. But you do have enough residents to fill a lot of these jobs that are there if they decide they want to come out and work. And so we're trying to find a creative way to make sure that outreach is there. We would love to work with you if you do get a website to be able to help you in making sure that stuff is hosted on there, that people know not just this development, but any other development that goes on. That should be the first thing people see on your website, people who have jobs coming into this community. So we're here to be a partner with you. I think staff has noticed that. We work with them time and time again. When everybody was concerned about the flea market closing, my client doesn't run the flea market. They just own the land. The person who ran the flea market, that entity, knew the time frame that they had to close the flea market down. But when people say, hey, we didn't have enough time, we sat down with the city and said, you know what, we'll extend this another 3 months. We don't even want any rent, as an accommodation to make sure people have a transition in order to move into the new facility that the city is working with. So we're really trying to make sure that we're good partners with the city and good citizens and corporate citizens with the city. So if you know that things or entities that we need to talk to about getting people as it relates to jobs, we have a wide open list. Like I said, probably over 765 permanent jobs. We need the list. We need those sources of places where we know we can go and post this stuff to get people out. And if you know people who are unemployed, please send them to us so we can find a way to see if we can get them into the job force. Because this is the kind of job you want on the industrial side with benefits in a place that's protected. And you know, when you go to work, it's a great atmosphere. With that, I want to turn it over. I know I talked quite a bit. I want to turn it over to Joe Goldstein, who'll go through some of the technical points. But I stand committed again to always work. And I tell you guys, you know, if you ever pick up the phone, I always try to respond. Let me find a way. And Mr. Dennis knows me well. If I give him my word as a man, he knows I'm going to follow up with him to make sure that happens. And we'll start working on that before it even gets to the commission level. Joe Goldstein.
Thank you.
I had a whole presentation that would work if I went first, but unfortunately.
Attorney
sorry,
Goldstein, if you could
somebody
speak into the
explain
mic, just point the mic up towards you so we can hear you.
Does that work? Can you hear me?
No, sir. Can you speak a little bit more clear into the mic? Thank you so much.
Can you hear me now? Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Joseph Goldstein. I'm an attorney at law at 701 Brickell Avenue, law firm of Holland and Knight, not to be confused with Holland. I've known Mr. Holland for a very long time, for probably 25 or 30 years. We've worked together on various matters over time. And I want to start by commenting as to how enthusiastic he is about the issues. As enthusiastic as he was just a moment ago is really how he comports himself in the meetings that we've had together. He is very, very committed to addressing those issues, and far be it from me to be the one to address, but we can sort of go through some of the development agreement, and I know we haven't called that item yet, so I won't talk in detail about the development agreement until it comes up. But there were questions as to whether the commitments that are made, and most of them are made in the development agreement, will be enthusiastically enforced. And let me point out just one little thing. The development agreement is for 30 years. And the development agreement, among other things, has the requirement to file an annual report for all of the, to outline whether and how you met those obligations that were referenced in the development agreement. So just as a minor matter, there is the ability to enforce, and the ability to enforce rests with the city. And we're committed, our client is committed to meeting those obligations. Do you, with the PowerPoint presentation?
We're not there.
Right.
Okay.
I stopped right after I stepped over the line, but I'm going to take a moment and just go through the presentation that I was actually going to make, just to make sure that everything is steady. Again, I'm here with Robert Holland, as well as Alessandria San Ramon, who works with me. We have Mike Carr, who is a civil engineer and is the civil engineer for the project, so that if you have questions about the development. And we have Carlo Mendoza, who's the architect with RLC Architects, that can talk a little bit about the design and architecture, if you can. So the property that we're talking about, if you can go to the next slide, please. The property we're talking about adds up to about 43 and a little bit above that acres. It's formed in two parcels of land. The parcel that you see to the south, which is referenced as parcel 1, is approximately 33 and change acres. The property just north of that, that's sort of the triangular slice of pizza, is about 10 acres. The property is bounded on the east side by Douglas, the Douglas Lejeune roadway, on the west by 42nd Avenue Lejeune, on the south but the Gratney. The property is designated on the comprehensive, next slide, please. Property is designated on the comprehensive plan for commercial with corridor mixed use overlay, and that's the parcel 1. Parcel 2, the triangle, is designated industrial. Next slide, please. Property zoned B3, again with the mixed use overlay, and that is on the mixed use overlay is only on parcel 1, not on parcel 2, the triangularly shaped parcel. Next slide, please. Lord knows I don't need to tell you what the flea market has been over the years and what it looks like today. I'm sure you know far better than I. That's what you see here. And obviously you're familiar with what's been going on with the flea market over time. Next slide, please. So we're here for site plan approval.
Excuse me. Ms. Hall is taking minutes, and
Slow
she's
down.
having difficulty hearing you. And I know it might be tough, but if you could
It's the
speak
tip.
slightly louder. Thank you.
Better? Slightly better. Okay, I'll try and do even more.
Can you adjust his mic up? Yeah, thank you. There you go.
Can you hear me now? Is that the problem? This much? Okay. Again, we're here. This item is for site plan approval. This next item is for development agreement. The site plan itself is on the board. It contains 6 buildings. The 2 buildings that front Lejeune and Douglas are narrower buildings. The goal of the city is to make sure that there's some opportunity for something more than just logistics. And so to accommodate that, we've designed the buildings on the east and west side to be narrower buildings, which are easier to lease to use as flex space. Flex space is really space that is for offices, commercial, sort of the mixed use, the type of stuff like Robert had mentioned, the California closet type stuff that can accommodate smaller uses and quasi retail and office. And that's the east and west. Those buildings also are being designed with additional glass to make it, again, be much more attentive to commercial uses. And the reason that we're being so careful is we don't have tenants. It's a speculative project. We know it will lease up. Lord, heaven knows the leasing over the past couple of years has been crazy. And from every indication, we see the movement, as Robert had said, the movement of the quasi retail into the industrial districts has I think been fully acknowledged. As a result, the 2 buildings on the side are about 145,000 square feet, while the buildings on the inside are about 170,000 square feet. They're much bigger buildings. They're more traditional retail. If you can switch the slide, please. So Mr. Holland had already referenced this. This is about a 74,000 square foot 741,000, excuse me, square foot project. There's probably about 10% of that is the smaller space in terms of leasability. As Robert had said, we anticipate 100,000 construction jobs at the outset, 765 permanent jobs, 90 million in new investment, and above the 382,000 that and taxes that are paid today, it's expected to generate $1 million to 1.5 million of 1.5 million square feet. I'm sorry, $1.5 million of revenues. The next slide actually talks a little bit about the site plan changes that I've just described. In terms of care, and this is coming close to the end of my boring part of the presentation. There's a maintenance plan which maintains this. This is a project that, again, has a development agreement that runs for 30 years. That the city has the ability to make sure that we live up to our obligations, and we intend to. It's got great access for police and fire, and meets the parking requirements. At this point, I will go to the next slide. One more, please, or did I? Right. So while beauty is in the eye of the beholder, again, this is really what we're talking about. It's a Class A flex space and industrial logistics facility. The effort that we put into both the glazing on the frontages as well as surrounding do try to mimic the Moorish architecture, the Moorish style. It has been used in the past, and we feel it's a very attractive opportunity. With that, that's the site plan portion of our presentation. We can answer any questions. We will respond to development agreement related things at the time that you call that item.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions regarding the site plan?
I only want to say that I think they did a good job going back with the amendment. the last presenter when you came and Robert gave enough information that really my reservation has been addressed. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Staff?
Sorry.
Gerald Lee, Planning and Community Development Department. I won't belabor the points. It appears that a lot of information has been presented. Can you cue me up? I will take a stab at a couple things. I want to make sure we cover the items that we need to cover. The applicant has included a lot of technical information as it relates to the city's code, though. This project is in compliance with the zoning requirements for the B3 and the overlay district that governs what is going to happen there. Go forward. Keep going, keep going. You got to go to the back.
Mr. Lee, quick
Yes.
question. The second lot, the pizza shaped one, that one is covered under the overlay district?
It's under the B3, not the overlay.
Okay.
Not the overlay. That's the area that he identified specifically that had smaller unit sizes to accommodate the integration of warehousing, retail, and flex office space to adhere to the opportunities for whomever would be coming to do their business there. And since they don't have the crystal ball that tells them exactly what kind of business needs they're going to have, they're building the building so that they can make the adjustments as the individual businesses come in.
Which have to conform under the B3.
Yes, sir.
So it really allows for future growth.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And that's what it's for. And in particular, what Dr. Holland brought to the table, he discussed the new innovations in logistics, and they're preparing for what the future is going to bring instead of making what is already passé. Now, based on the requirements of our code, next slide, please. They're already in compliance with site plan requirements for setbacks, for building heights, for lot coverage, for landscaping, and for zoning. And so, next slide, please. Because they're in compliance with the requirements of the code, and because what has been there for a long time has been things that need to be improved, the Planning and Community Development Department is in support of what they're bringing to the table. We have spent a lot of time discussing and looking for opportunities to address employment circumstances for the city residents. And it has not been a one-time discussion or something of that sort. We have had meeting after meeting after meeting to get to the place that we are, and we're pretty excited about where we are, but there's always room for improvement. Next slide. That's particulars that were already discussed. Next slide. You know where the location is. And like I said, the triangular part, that's where a large quantity of the buildings that are set up for that retail logistic piece that also includes retail spaces and additional glass areas so that they can do retail in addition to keeping their product within their same space. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Say goodbye. Next slide. There were some concerns that we voiced, and we met again with the applicant, and those concerns were settled. Each of those concerns were settled. If you look at your staff report, all of the requirements of the zoning code, all of the concerns that we had, we met with them and they made adjustments or concessions, modifications, so that we could have compliance based on the zoning code for this development. Next slide. Again, staff recommends approval. We're excited about this project. It represents a huge influx of not only business opportunity, but dollars and cents for the city and for the businesses that may be a part of Opa-locka in the future. I remain for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Any questions?
And if I may follow up
Yeah, Mr. Gray.
with Mr. Lee and his comments. As he has already stated, we spent many hours and many meetings, face-to-face, Zoom, emails, texts, all forms of communications, with the exception of smoke screens and using powwow smoking devices. We basically wanted to make sure that from the zoning standpoint and the zoning criteria, especially on the larger portion of the site, that the opportunity to have mixed use development, even though we are looking at a logistics operation, to basically make sure that there were opportunities in place for retail, office, and other related types of uses to occur, especially facing onto the main streets. This project has the opportunity to not only face onto 42nd Avenue, which is Lejeune, but the Lejeune Douglas connector. If you drive that road right now, there's basically all of the warehousing and businesses that are located along that particular corridor turn their back on the street. And this was an opportunity where we could introduce a greater retail opportunity that will be facing toward that street and activating that street into another retail opportunity, along with the logistic uses that are occurring. So with the amount of work that staff has put in relationship to this particular project, we do wholeheartedly support this particular application.
Thank you, Mr. Gray.
We'll address any questions at this time.
Brian, Thompson?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for approval.
Seconded.
Roll call?
Board Member Barnes,
Yes.
Board Member Johnson,
Yes.
Board Member Hibbert Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Guerrero,
Yes.
item passed.
The next item?
A resolution of the Planning and Zoning Board of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, recommending development agreement review approval for the construction and operation of an industrial and commercial mixed-use retail and warehouse distribution facility on the property located at 12691 Northwest 42nd Avenue and 12705 Northwest 42nd Avenue, Opa-locka, Florida, 33054. Identified by folio 08-2129-000-0050 and 08-2129-000-0064 in the B3 zoning district, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for an effective date.
Chair and members of the board, this is development agreement section for the companion project that we just spoke on. Just for one of the things that we wanted to point out, and I believe it was an inquiry that was made earlier in relationship to working within the community and trying to provide job opportunities for residents within the city of Opa-locka. If you look on page PZ 430, which is within the development agreement, there is a section that speaks toward the opportunities for training and hiring within the municipality and trying to promote those particular events and activities to take place. As attorneys Holland and Goldstein have expressed, you know, these are some of the key things that they've really placed a considerable amount of work in trying to make sure that the opportunities would exist, that we would do the necessary seeking and advertisement for these particular activities to take place. And if necessary, reaching out into the community, putting out marketing material, and pretty much doing almost anything and everything except grabbing someone by the hand and taking them personally to apply for a job. We're trying to make it where any and every opportunity to become employed within this community, it has been addressed. I don't know if Mr. Holland or Mr. Goldstein might want to add some things to that, but those are the things that we've been meeting on for the past few months.
I will tell you, with the numerous meetings we had with staff as well as your city attorney, we took no exceptions to the development agreement. We actually worked with them to try to see how we can add some other teeth to some of the things to make sure it was a better product for the community. So most of that stuff we kind of mentioned earlier. You'll see some stuff rolling out pretty soon as it relates to some of the outreach that we're working on now. And I think you'll be very proud that the outreach really did take place to try to get people there.
Mr. Chair, since a lot of the items in the previous presentation was already mentioned, I feel pretty comfortable thus far what staff have mentioned. The job readiness is just a key, but they have addressed that. So I don't have any more, I don't have any reservation at this point. I think it's kind of clear, concise. You can really tell some thought has been put into it since we last met. So I would like to first commend staff, the attorneys that's working with the client itself. And I think due diligence, I'd like to suggest to staff don't grab anybody by the arm because it may be liability on the city. But I think if we do due diligence, you know, and that preparation prior, I think everything will work out, and it's a new curve. So it requires new thinking. And traditionally, what we have said in the past, it may not work in the future, but we're in a prime location. And there is no surrounding city in this area, the north part of Miami-Dade County, that have the advantage that we have with our thoroughways, airports, and our brains. So let's make it happen and work along with them. And I think as we go along and everything, you got opportunity for amendment if needed. The only thing to Robert Esquire is that the 30 years is a 30-year development agreement. To staff, how often do we go back and review those? So if we don't have anything in there, and it may be there, Gerald, it's almost been 2 hours, so good. I'm really needing some of that. So I'm pretty comfortable at this point. But I'm sorry we had to crack the whip the last couple of meetings, but we're getting there. And that's what it's all about. It's communication, making sure that we build a partnership. And although Mr. Holloman mentioned about the partners that we have to look at the stakeholders and the resources and your Rolodex that you could bring to the table. So we all always have work to do. And I really appreciate you. Y'all been around me long enough to know I'm shy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Board Member Johnson, we really do appreciate those particular comments. I think one thing that we have not been very diligent on, and actually this particular developer has begun the process when it comes to the development agreement, they're supposed to provide an annual report every year. And we are in the process of collecting those particular reports, and we will be providing that information to the board so you can see how these particular projects are progressing from year to year. So we will be providing that information.
So you can give him my dollar back, because I think once we get those, then we can put it in our annual report, and that's where we show the community what we're actually doing. And they can really see where we're striving to go forward. And you can give them a dollar back in quarters, not the paper dollar.
Thank you.
But I might have to roll it.
Any other comments?
Like to make a motion for approval?
I second.
We have a second?
I second that.
Roll call?
Board Member Barnes,
Yes.
Board Member Johnson,
Yes.
Board Member Hibbert Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Guerrero,
Yes.
item passed.
Thank you again for your service.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
The final item?
The final item on the agenda this evening is an ordinance of the Planning and Zoning Board of the City of Opa-locka, Florida, to recommend the adoption of a text amendment to the Land Development Regulation, Ordinance 15-31, to permit tractor trailer truck and major vehicle 10,000 pounds or greater parking in the I-4 zoning district, providing for conflict and repealer, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
It's kind of self-explanatory, right?
Chairman, members of the board, Gregory Gay. This is an item that we've been analyzing for quite some time. And it's really due to some of the businesses within certain areas of the city, kind of preemptively having this truck operational activities to occur within their site. That we've looked at it a little bit more closely. And as we have analyzed the logistic operations within our city, we have noticed that there's a significant uptick in demand for the parking of trucks and truck-related activities and logistics. This is something that's occurring throughout the county. And we see that there may be some areas within our city, especially within the I-4 area, where we needed to expand those particular uses that are occurring now to open up opportunities for this particular type of use to occur. The I-4 areas within the city of Opa-locka have been traditionally known as the scrap metals and the junkyard areas of our city, because that's what they've been traditionally for quite some time. Not to say that those industries are not useful in providing jobs and resources for this particular city, but we do see there may be opportunities where truck parking, logistics, and opportunities related to that, which need a significant size footprint in order to operate sufficiently. We need to tweak our code somewhat in order to allow this particular use to occur within our municipality, because we see that it is a use based on some of the other things that are occurring and within our city and other cities, and the demand for logistics overall. We wanted to be able to take advantage of these particular activities to occur, and for the ones that have kind of preempted our use to give them an opportunity to come into conformance. So I believe that's the best route for us to take for this particular use. There may be members of the audience that might want to speak on this particular item. We do have a presentation from staff and our recommendation. So I just like to introduce it from that particular perspective. We'll answer any other questions after the presentations.
It's okay to hear from the audience first. Anybody who wants to speak on behalf of that item?
Good evening, Hope Calhoun. I don't have, I just wanted to say, just given the projects that I have had the opportunity to come before this board before, and in light of the presentation, actually, you just heard, we recognize that this type of use given in the existing I-4 areas is probably very beneficial to the city and where things are moving forward. So it's a good opportunity to bring those parcels that might be already be operating in such a way into compliance. So I just really wanted to speak in support of the ordinance amendment.
Thank you. Anybody else from the community?
I think this legislation will bring us into compliance, which is very much needed. And I'd like to make a suggestion to staff is that with all of the recent IT updates out there, that we modify some of these applications so that individuals can just do it online, because a lot of what we're doing manual, or a lot of the application process that we have done in the past, we can put a little tweak on it and make it much easier for the applicant. And it need to have accessibility for the for staff to retrieve. IT was my baby a long time ago. You still are, but I think we need to, I think it's time enough to take it to another step. And for those staff, you know, that is not familiar with the technology and all, we just need to have some training sources that we can be able to address it. But I don't want to be labeled. I think it's very much needed. Thank you.
Okay. Gerald Lee, Community Development Department. I'm not going to belabor the point. It's an amendment to the I-4 zoning district permitted uses. As Mr. Gay stated, those uses that are available in that district are intrusive, environmentally unsafe, and so on and so forth. And this particular use is something that the county has already recommended opportunities for trucking and truck parking throughout all of Dade County. So we'd be supporting that initiative, and we'd be reducing the contamination footprint that is in the city, because this particular use doesn't have the same detriment to the soil as junkyards and scrap metal facilities. Staff is in agreement. Staff is recommending approval. I remain for questions if there are any.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair, if there aren't any additional questions, I'd like to make a motion for approval.
I second that.
Roll call?
Board Member Barnes,
Yes.
Board Member Johnson, Board Member Hibbert Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Guerrero,
Yes.
item passed.
That concludes our agenda.
Second.